I'm Kyneton the Tech Pro, and today we are going to be doing review of functions in Python. The reason I'm trying to do review of functions in Python is because there's a module called Neural Network with Python that is part of data science and machine learning course. And this neural network module, actually you need to understand how to work with functions clearly for you to be able to follow this model. So while I was preparing this module for how to build neural networks in Python, I figured out that it's necessary to review functions in Python. So I'm going to suspend the neural network module and then let's review functions in Python, how functions work, how to create a function, and then we come back to neural network in Python. So now I'm going to just create a new file and let's play around with functions in Python, and then in part 2 we then go into neural network in Python. So let's start with this about review of functions. So that's one thing about machine learning and data science. If you don't get the prerequisites, then you find it difficult to follow through. So I'm going to put a comment that says review. Actually, we are going to be fasting in this case. In Python. So again, the link to this page is in the description box. In the description box below, kynetonthegenius.com/Python, and you just choose Python functions and you'll be here. Alright, so again, I'd like to remind you to subscribe to my channel. If you've not subscribed, like this video and share it around if it's been informative for you. But most important, I would like to hear from you. So if you could leave a comment for me to let me know if you have any recommendations, that would be great. And yeah, so remember, just subscribe by clicking on the subscribe button. That kind of motivates me to keep doing this. Now, a Python function is a block of code that is executed as a unit. Similar to functions in other programming languages, but it's a little different. There are many inbuilt functions in Python, but in neural network, we are going to be creating our own. We are going to be creating user-defined functions, and that is what we are going to be focusing on in this lesson. So once you create a function, you can reuse a function in other parts of your program. So let's start with the first part, defining a function. Let's see, to define a function, you need to use the keyword def. So a function definition begins with the keyword def, as you can see, followed by the function name, followed by open and close parentheses. Now the input parameters and the outputs. Input parameters to the function is placed inside the braces. Now how it applies to neural network is a neural network takes an input and yields an output, right? So we'll come back to that in details, but let's just understand how functions work. After the braces, you must add a colon before you start writing the function body. The function body must be indented, and the last statement in the function is optionally a return statement. That is not a must, but it's optionally a return statement. So I normally like to illustrate because we are talking about neural network. So I'm going to just illustrate what we are talking about, why we need to understand functions very, very, very clearly. So let's take, for instance, you already know that in a neural network, you have some inputs, let's say x1, and you have x2. This input goes into some function f, right? It goes into some function x and produces an output y. Let's say, of course, what is here maybe include a function as well as activation function. Here you have weight, here you have weight as well. So what we have as an output is y. So in Python, we actually must know how to write a function that takes some inputs, maybe pass it into another function that takes this as inputs and then produces an output y. So you understand why function is important in neural network. So let's write a function at this time, a function that takes two inputs. Let's say a function that takes input 1, input 1 and takes input 2, and this function performs just an addition and produces output, just an output, right? So this function takes 2 inputs, perform an addition and produces an output. Let's just write it. So to write it or to model that, you simply say def. So the keyword is def, that is the starting point, and then let's say get sum, and you give it input 1, in 1 and in 2. Now you can use the names that are there in my website. You can also use any name you want. I'm using in 1 and in 2, and you put a colon at the end. So at the end, you press enter to indent it. So if you press enter while you put a colon there, it's going to indent it, and now you can say sum equals in 1 plus in 2. So this is what happens in case of functions in Python. And okay, let's call it total, because I don't want this error. Total is equal to, okay, perfect, it's okay. Okay, so let's just shift this one so that we don't get these complaints. Okay, so get sum. Okay, so get sum. Let's see. I just want to remove this error. Okay, let's fix this. All right, so we have this get sum. All right, so it takes in 1 and in 2. I can just say return total. All right. All right, so this is a simple function in Python, and this is exactly how to create a function in Python. So what we did, we just modeled a network that takes 2 inputs and produces an output y. All right, let's see. After creating a function, let's say I run this code, you find out that nothing happens. So it means if you create a function, you need to use a function. To use a function, you have to call this function. If it requires parameters, then you must provide these parameters. You need to tell this function what is the input 1 and what is the input 2. Now this input 1 can come from the inputs. Let's say from the user. It can also be part of the program by assigning it values. So let's say we have a function that takes we need to calculate the sum of 2 numbers, and we already have the function. So what we are going to do is simply say we say get sum. All right, we say get sum and just give it 2 parameters. Let's say 2 and 4. So at this point, if we run it, nothing will also happen because we are not printing out anything to the output. So if I run it, nothing happens because we are not printing out any output. So first, let me show you this point. Let's just print out something to the output. I'm going to say the sum is str. Sorry, I'm going to come here. Is str sum or str total, because that is what we have there. So now we have str total. If I run this code, and while you see I call get sum here, once you call get sum, the program goes back to start running this block of code right here. That is what happens when you do a function call. The program will actually go back to start running this function code. So this block of code. If I remove this and run this code, it's not going to do anything as well, even though I have a print statement right here. So the only time it's going to do something is when I print it. You can see get 2,4, and if I run it now, you can see it says the sum is 6. All right, that is fine. So let me just show you how to get input from users and then use it as parameters to the function. So let's say we want to give this function call instead of hard-coded input. We need to get some input from the user. So we can say x1 is equal to input, and then you now get something from the user. Sorry, let's do it this way. X1 is equal to inputs, enter first number, that is X1, and X2 as well. X2 is equal to input, enter second number. Alright, so we have X1 and X2, and now we call getSum. We give it X1 and we give it X2. It's now going to use whatever the user enters into the prompt to do the calculation. So if I enter 20 and I enter 30, it says the output is 2030. That is very, very funny. So the reason is because the input is considered here as a string. So the easiest way to manage this is to just convert them to integers. So you can just say x1 is equal to integer x1, converting it to integer, and x2 is equal to integer x2. Now you need to understand all of this. They are actually the basics of programming. So I enter 20, I enter 30, I can say it tells us the sum is 50. So it is only when a function is called that the program executes it, that is fine. Now I have the concept of pass by value and the concept of pass by reference. In Python, all arguments to a function are passed by reference. So this means that the same variable used in defining a function is referenced when calling this function. So if you change the reference of a parameter within a function, this change is reflected in the calling function. Okay, so this is explained here. So in this case, I'm going to copy and paste it and then explain it. So let me copy. At this point, I'm going to kind of delete this. I hate doing it, but anyway, instead of deleting, let's just comment out. I'm going to just comment out this. Let's put a comment. This is a comment here, and put a comment so that it doesn't actually do nothing. Okay, so let me also comment all this as well, and comment all this as well. So I can just take all this. So if I paste this block of code, now we have that this function is called changeList. It takes a parameter of a list type. Okay. Now we